The automotive sector is in turmoil. Stellantis, a major player in the industry, has halted production. Factories are closing. Employees are losing their livelihoods. The reason? A trade war driven by tariffs. The United States and Canada, once strong allies and trade partners, are now in an economic conflict. This conflict is unfolding in factories across North America, affecting workers and communities. The situation is critical. Thousands of employees are facing an uncertain future. The economic impact is reverberating throughout the auto industry and beyond. This is a tale of tariffs, retaliation, and the human toll of a trade war. Let's set the record straight. It's Stellantis, not Ford, that's currently in turmoil. Misinformation spreads rapidly, making it essential to clarify the facts. While Ford has its own set of issues, the recent factory shutdowns and layoffs are a direct result of Stellantis's reaction to the ongoing trade conflict. Stellantis, born from the merger of Fiat Chrysler and PSA Group, is a significant player in the global auto market. With renowned brands like Jeep, Ram and Dodge, the company's decisions have widespread implications. This situation highlights the interconnected nature of the global economy and the cascading effects of trade disputes. The repercussions of this trade conflict are reverberating throughout North America. Stellantis has enforced shutdowns and layoffs in its facilities across the US, Canada and Mexico. In Canada, the Windsor, Ontario plant has come to a standstill. This shutdown has left 4,500 workers in uncertainty. The US is also feeling the strain. 900 employees across 5 US facilities are facing layoffs. The Warren Stamping, Sterling Stamping, Indiana Transmission, Kokomo Transmission and Kokomo Casting plants have all been affected by layoffs. South of the border, Stellantis's Toluca assembly plant in Mexico halted operations for the entire month of April. This continental crisis underscores the interconnected nature of the North American auto industry and the extensive impact of trade tensions. The current standoff originates from a series of tariffs imposed by the US on imported vehicles, steel and aluminum. These tariffs were part of a broader strategy to strengthen American manufacturing and reduce the trade deficit. The US administration believes that by imposing these tariffs, they can encourage companies to produce more domestically, thereby creating jobs and boosting the economy. The US government imposed a significant 25% tariff on all foreign-made vehicles. This move aimed to make imported cars more expensive and less appealing to American consumers, thereby giving an advantage to domestically produced vehicles. Even vehicles with 50% US components are subject to a 12.5% tariff. This has caused significant concern among automakers who rely on a global supply chain to produce their vehicles. Additionally, a 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum makes it clear that the US is trying to protect its domestic industries. These tariffs are intended to make imported raw materials more expensive, thereby encouraging companies to source these materials from within the US. Canada, however, isn't taking these tariffs lightly. The Canadian government has been vocal in its opposition to these measures, arguing that they are unfair and harmful to both Canadian and American businesses. In retaliation, the Canadian government implemented its own 25% tariff on American-made cars sold within its borders. This was a direct response to the US tariffs and aimed at protecting Canadian industries and jobs. To ease the impact on automakers committed to Canadian production and investment, Canada introduced exemptions to these tariffs. These exemptions are designed to encourage continued investment in the Canadian automotive sector and to mitigate the impact on Canadian consumers. However, the message is clear. Canada will defend its interests. The Canadian government has made it clear that it will take whatever measures are necessary to protect its economy and its workers. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs has created a volatile and unpredictable trade environment. Businesses on both sides of the border are facing increased costs and uncertainty, making it difficult to plan for the future. The long-term impact of these tariffs remains to be seen, but for now, the economic relationship between the US and Canada is more strained than ever. Section 5. Political battle lines, drawn leaders. Grapple with tariff fallout. The tariff conflict has sparked a political firestorm, creating a complex and contentious environment for leaders on both sides of the border. The imposition of tariffs has not only disrupted trade but has also become a significant political issue, with leaders scrambling to address the fallout and defend their respective positions. Leaders on both sides of the border are working to manage the fallout and defend their respective positions. The economic implications are vast, affecting industries from automotive to agriculture, and the political ramifications are equally significant. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has emerged as a vocal critic of the US tariffs. He has been outspoken in his condemnation, arguing that the tariffs are unfair and detrimental to both economies. Carney has vowed to maintain Canada's retaliatory tariffs until the US commits to a free trade agreement. He has vowed to maintain Canada's retaliatory tariffs until the US commits to a free trade agreement. This stance has garnered both support and criticism within Canada, highlighting the deep divisions over how best to respond to the US tariffs. Within Canada, the issue has sparked diverse reactions. Some politicians and business leaders support the Prime Minister's tough stance, while others argue for a more conciliatory approach to avoid further economic damage. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has proposed eliminating the federal tax on new Canadian-made cars to boost domestic production. He believes this measure will help the Canadian automotive industry remain competitive despite the tariffs. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has suggested victory bonds as a means to strengthen the Canadian economy. Singh argues that these bonds would provide a way for Canadians to invest in their country's future and help mitigate the economic impact of the tariffs. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has openly criticised the tariffs, warning of a potential recession. Ford has called for immediate action to protect Ontario's economy, emphasising the need for both provincial and federal governments to work together. On the US side, the response has been mixed. Some politicians support the tariffs as a necessary measure to protect American industries, while others are concerned about the negative impact on international relations and the economy. Senator Chuck Schumer has condemned the tariffs and their detrimental impact on American workers. He argues that the tariffs are hurting the very people they are supposed to protect, leading to higher prices and job losses in key industries. Representative Haley Stevens has voiced concerns over strained US-Canada relations and potential national security implications. She emphasises the importance of maintaining strong ties with Canada, a key ally and trading partner, and calls for a more balanced approach to trade policy. Section 6. Labour unions cry out, unnecessary layoffs spark outrage. Auto workers on both sides of the border are feeling the harsh impact of the trade war. Once bustling factories now stand silent and workers' faces show deep concern and uncertainty. Labour unions, representing thousands of workers, have condemned the layoffs and factory closures. They argue that these decisions are not just business moves but attacks on the livelihoods of countless families. The United Auto Workers in the US has been particularly critical of Stellantis, arguing that the layoffs were unnecessary. They believe the company could have explored alternative measures to avoid such drastic actions. UAW President Shawn Fain has directly called out Stellantis, asserting that the company had other options to weather the storm. He emphasised that the workers should not be the ones to suffer due to corporate decisions. In Canada, Unifor, the largest private sector union, has echoed these concerns. They have been vocal about the need for companies to prioritise their workers' well-being over profit margins. Unifor has emphasised the immediate and devastating impact of the US tariffs on Canadian auto workers and stressed the importance of protecting Canadian jobs. They argue that the ripple effects of these layoffs will be felt across communities. The union's message is clear. Workers should not bear the brunt of political disputes. They call for solidarity and action to ensure that the rights and livelihoods of workers are safeguarded in these turbulent times. Section 7. Economic shockwaves. Tariffs drive up prices, rattle markets. The trade war's economic impact is already being felt. Tariffs inherently raise the cost of goods. Consumers are now facing steeper prices for vehicles. A notable example is the potential $8,000 increase on the Chevrolet Silverado. The stock market has responded negatively to the uncertainty and instability caused by the trade war. Shares of Stellantis, Ford, General Motors and Tesla have all seen declines. Tariffs have also driven up prices for aluminum and steel in the US, further affecting manufacturing costs. The economic fallout from the trade war is creating a ripple effect throughout the North American economy. Section 8. A trade war's collateral damage. The North American auto industry in the crosshairs. The ongoing trade conflict between the US and Canada is just one skirmish in a broader trade war. This trade war has been ongoing for years, affecting multiple sectors, including energy and agriculture. The North American auto industry, with its deeply interconnected supply chains and cross-border production, is especially susceptible to tariff-induced disruptions. Components often cross borders several times during the manufacturing process. Tariffs introduce complexity and cost at every stage, reducing the industry's global competitiveness. The current scenario underscores the fragility of global supply chains and how economic and political tensions can disrupt the flow of goods and services.